looks like you're getting close to the microphone. Go ahead, get close and introduce yourself and go ahead. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Gayleen Rabacook. I volunteer at the Lago Vista Public Library, and I also serve on the Friends of the Library Board there. I am speaking in opposition to this bill. I'm very concerned for several reasons about what it would do to our small library. In case you don't know, Lago Vista is a community of about 10,000 people, just it's in far northwest Travis County. And it would be, even though we have a children's section in the library and a young adult section, it's all in the same big room. And in many cases, the children's books, the books for upper elementary students, are on the opposite side of the same shelving unit that the adult books are on. And in my visits to other small Texas libraries, I've noticed that that's a pretty common arrangement for small town libraries. And it's not at all uncommon for library patrons under 18 to access books from the adult section when they've exhausted the children's or young adult section while researching a topic, particularly if they're working on a school project or a term paper. In fact, many classic titles assigned in high school literature classes are shelved in the adult section and contain materials that would likely be flagged under this bill. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Great Gatsby, and pretty much everything written by Shakespeare would be off limits. Parents, not the government, should determine what books are and are not appropriate for their own children to read. At Lago Vista, the only way to reasonably ensure children could not look at books from the adult section would be to restrict their access to the library. And frankly, I find that completely unacceptable. We have about 50 kids each week that come with their parents to our Wednesday story times. Please vote against this bill. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your testimony. Senator Zaffarani, you're recognized, Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Russi, I believe you mentioned an opt-in, opt-out process.
Yes, I mentioned that there is not currently an opt-in or opt-out process as the bill is laid out, at least the version I saw.
We've heard from 10 witnesses about this book, and I believe that's been mentioned 3 times. If I remember correctly, I believe you were the third. How would that work, and would that make you support the bill?
I still have some concerns about the bill, but I think if this committee really believes in affirming parents' rights, that would be a way that would allow me to have more of a say in what my family and my children have access to in the public library. So I do believe that could be an improvement on this bill.
So if we had an opt-in provision, would the rest of you support the bill? Could we start from the left? Mr. Strong?
I also have additional concerns that I mentioned. I think that some of the definitions are too broad. I do think that would strengthen the bill. I think that it would be preferable for parental rights.
It would be preferable, but I still am concerned for the children that come to the library because they have nowhere else to go.
Thank you.
In library school, I learned that librarians are governed by certain principles. One of those principles is to save the time of the reader. Having libraries segregated in such a way as proposed by this bill would go against that. And so that's a concern that I have, but I would be interested in seeing an addendum that would allow for parental opt-in.
Thank you.
I would also be interested in seeing what the amendment might be, but I think a key thing to think about is when you say access, do you mean that the book is in the same space as the child, or do you mean that the child is not allowed to check out the book? Because I think that's a significant distinction that could possibly be made here.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dean. And if I can ask Ms. Rabacook, what you were just pointing out, the distinction between a child being able to access, quote unquote, to pull it off the shelf and look, versus checking it out. Help us understand that distinction and how significant that is from your standpoint.
So I'm from Oklahoma originally, and I am pretty sure that when my kids got a public library card there, that I had to sign a form that said that I allowed them to check out books from the adult section when they were minors.
For checking, I know that makes sense. And I was curious. That was not an arguing question. I wanted to see what that looked like. Thank you for that. And let me say to each witness, because of the way the system is set up here, when a bill is filed, that's the version that becomes public. And then we hear input from stakeholders. And then when it's time for the committee, we will often present a committee substitute. And I apologize, it's not available online until it'll be available online. We'd love you to take a look at that. And this is a work in progress. We want to get this right. And we may not agree on everything, but we want to get this right. So I'm not giving you homework, but I will ask, take a look at that committee substitute, see what you think, and please call us, email us, come see us, and we'll continue to work on this bill. And we're listening to you. Here, the hearings matter. We listen to the witnesses, and the bills get better in the process. Senators, any other questions for these witnesses? We thank each of you for being here. Thank you very much, and thanks for sticking around with us all day.